My guest today is writer-director Portia A. Buckley. Portia's work focuses on character-driven narratives centered around marginalized, strong-willed female protagonists. Now, she has been sponsored by the BFI and Kodak, and her previous short film, Birthday Girl, won the Kodak Best Shot on Film Award at Holly Shorts, with many more international accolades. Now, her new short film, Clodagh, is a heartfelt film produced by Michael Lindley of Afternoon Pictures and PG Productions and executive produced by Academy Award winner Serena Armitage. Now, Clodagh has been selected by the prestigious Oscar-qualifying Cleveland International Film Festival, where it won the Spalding and Jackson Award in celebration of joy. Now, the film will also play at Short Shorts Asia in Tokyo and the Tribeca Film Festival in New York. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome writer-director Portia A. Buckley to the show.
Hello, thank you so much for having me, and how lovely to hear you speak about my work like that.
You are very welcome, and I have to ask because I loved this film. It's the type of film that I could watch over and over again. But you and Michael Lindley wrote the screenplay. Where did you get the idea for the film?
So my partner, Michael Lindley, and I were working on a project up in Warrington, which is in the north of England. And his uncle is a priest. Anyway, when we were working with his uncle, there was a housekeeper there. And we were kind of very interested by these roles of these housekeepers that were, very kind of silent and quiet, but, looked after the priest, were pillar members of the community. And then we started looking on RT, which is an Irish television program, all their archival footage. And we found this amazing archival footage of this priest housekeeper. And the interviewer kept on trying to get her to kind of tell tales on the priest and all this sort of stuff. And she was just so professional and so devout. But she was also wearing this very jazzy jumper, which had diamante on it, so little diamantes. And we loved this idea that there was something, this sort of artistic beating heart within her. And this idea that something would, turn her world upside down and come into her life, which is how that was the sort of inspiration point of Clodagh.
This story is so good. And I watched it multiple times. And with the housekeeper, how did you shape her character?
Well, I mean, that's an interesting question. I mean, I think that Breed Niactane, who plays Mrs. Kelly, the housekeeper, brought so much of herself and so much to the part that I definitely can't take credit for all of it. But we really wanted to make a film about a character that was incredibly devout, rigorously honest, and that her morals would be tested. And, to lots of people, it would be kind of a small lie that she has to tell, but for her, it's monumental. And we had a backstory, and we did like the idea that she had potentially had a child at some point in her life that she had lost, and that Clodagh coming into her life kind of brings a new kind of light and hope into her life.
Well, you have a great series of characters, and each with a pure heart that you allow them to expose in their own way in this story. I found the synergy between the cast members absolutely beautiful. So for you, what was the casting process like?
So it was an interesting one because, everyone always asks us. So you found Caitlin Rose Downey, who plays Clodagh, the Irish dancer. You must have found her first and then written the script. And we said, oh, no, we didn't. We didn't do it that way around at all. And in fact, we wrote the script. And then we realized we had to not only find Mrs. Kelly, but we had to find Clodagh, this dancer, and a fiddle player, which is no easy task to do when, they also have to act at the same time. But this project there was something quite special about this project. We wrote the script very quickly, and then everything sort of sort of fell into place, and that never ever happens. And the first person we called to try and find out some dancers in Ireland put us in touch with the Watson Twin Academy in Dublin, which is, you know, run by these these twins dancing teachers. And they sent an email back saying, we think I think my daughter will be perfect for the part of Clodagh. Anyway, that's often what parents think about their kids, and it's often not correct. So it was the first place we went. We saw these girls, and we were thinking we were just going to cast the kind of background girls. And this Caitlin was waiting on the side, and they all danced to an incredible ability, you know. And in reality, they dulled it down for the film. And then Caitlin came on, and she just completely blew us away. And she had sort of choreographed some of her own stuff, and so that was that. And with Breed, we'd always loved Breed, and she was in Banshees of Inisherin, which was a film that we admired, and we liked her in that. And we've seen her in lots of things, and she's a big stage actor, and we've always had our eye on her, so we thought she would be perfect. And then the fabulous Jim Kitson, who plays Mr. Hickey, is actually our only member of our cast that wasn't Irish. So he's actually putting on an accent, and he's great. And then of course Aidan O'Hare, we've worked with before, who we love, plays Clodagh's father. And he's played a priest actually for us in a previous short we did in Ireland. So we sort of had an idea of everyone, but Clodagh and finding Caitlin really brought the whole thing together.
Well, as I was watching the film, there is a line that you have in the film that literally made me laugh because I got the inside joke. So when the housekeeper told Clodagh, "We have no Dallas, Texas here," it made me laugh because I knew what she was talking about. How did you come up with that line?
Well, how did we come up with that line? I guess when we were writing together, for Mrs. Kelly, what Clodagh has is this very kind of star-like quality. But what she doesn't like with her girls is any of the kind of pageantry. None of the girls wear any makeup. None of the girls have their nail varnish on, and the glitter for Mrs. Kelly represents pageantry, and what Irish people would see as sort of Dallas is showy and flashy, but of course that quality in Clodagh, which is in Dallas, Texas, is what she falls in love with, as well. So it's kind of,
yeah. I mean, because I know that we're on the north side of Houston, Texas. Dallas is only 2.5 hours away, and when I heard the line, I started laughing because here we all know about Dallas debutantes, overly showy, over the top. And so I really thought it was funny that the line was brought up in this film. But like I told you before, I watched this film multiple times. And because there's just these little things in this film that just make it so beautiful and so pure in this story. The scene in the gymnasium where the girls are practicing their dancing, Clodagh is silently practicing some of her dance steps that the other girls are doing. But what caught my eye was that little look that Clodagh gave to Mr. Hickey before he stops playing because she knew his timing was off. So I thought that her little look was a brilliant little clue.
No, but she's a very subtle actress, Caitlin, and she she nailed all that stuff. She was with child actors. I mean, she's a young adult. She's 14. it can be very difficult to get these kind of very subtle performances, but she's such a pro, and I know, and then then essentially she ends up being kind of in cahoots with Mr. Hickey, and they kind of have this amazing kind of energy and synergy between themselves, kind of like kindred spirits.
They do, and I think what really brought them together was when Clodagh thanked Mr. Hickey, and then she told him, a dancer is nothing without the music, but we're in each other's shadow we live. And I thought that was one of the most beautiful lines in this film. It just really just brought it together and really brought a whole lot of meaning to the story.
Oh, I'm so glad. Yeah, we definitely wanted to have the Irish in there. And the fact that Mr. Hickey, says in the Irish, what a wonder you are, not expecting a response. And we love that this sort of Caitlin's almost like this creature that's always surprising us.
Well, you placed a moral dilemma in this film. Is there a difference between a lie or a little white lie? And all of this was based on where the girl lived. You matched the dilemma with a religious housekeeper who lives her life in the eyes of God. And I think for some of us, it's a test that many of us may come across in our lifetime. And but you played this one brilliantly.
Thank you so much. I think that, in a way, these sort of low, sort of small stakes, and as you say, this white lie or this fib, but to Mrs. Kelly, it's so much more than that, and I think the whole film really is about people coming to crossroads in their life, and although she does lie, there is an element that she's lying for the greater good, for the help to help this girl, also a little bit for herself, for her community, and I believe that the sort of, if there's a sort of message to the film, it's to hope that people sometimes take those leaps of faith, actually, and hope, and sometimes embrace the unknown, which is often scary, but can pay off. And really, she's doing something good, and she's taking this young girl under her wing.
Most definitely. And, I loved the fact that the girl's middle name is Bridget and the housekeeper's first name is Bridget, which I thought was very well played because it placed the housekeeper, and in my eyes, it placed the housekeeper in the young girl's shoes, dancing shoes, that is, because Mrs. Kelly wasn't allowed to dance when she was a younger girl, but here she is becoming a teacher.
Yeah, when she says, we weren't allowed, not in my house, you feel a kind of pang for her, and the fact that she's kind of, in a way, vicariously living through Clodagh and St. Bridget and Bridget, their names are Bridget, and it's sort of another thing that connects her. But also, in the script we wrote, Clodagh dances as if touched by God, and and that's something that's also on Mrs. Kelly's mind. There are all these signs potentially that are bringing her and Clodagh closer together. So to her mind, in her mind, she's witnessed something, religious and holy as she dances.
Very much so, and with Bridge, and in that scene in the gym where she's seeing Clodagh dance for the first time. And I love the way you played it because of the fact that Clodagh tells Mr. Hickey, could you speed up the music, because she's used to a very particular type of timing. But the look on the housekeeper's face, and she just goes, "Oh my God." Like you said, she's witnessed something that is holy. It's like she's seeing a miracle happen right before her eyes. And this is why, I can see why you won an award at the Cleveland International Film Festival, because this film has every element and what it takes to win the awards, during the film festival season. This is one of my favorite films so far.
Well, that's very kind of you to say. I'm thrilled you feel like that. We're very proud of it. We're really happy with it, and we had an incredible team. We had a big support network of amazing cast and crew, and also the support of Kodak, who sponsored us, because we got to shoot on 35mm, which is millimeter film, which is a rare and wonderful thing. Which also felt exhilarating. These days, everything's digital and you can see everything. Whereas, because we were in Ireland shooting on a short period of time, we weren't seeing our rushes, and we weren't, so it was sort of it all felt it was, it was, yeah.
Well,
we had to take our side.
Yeah, because that's what I was going to ask you, because as I was watching it, and of course I read some of your background, you like shooting on film, and I was kind of wondering, okay, did she shoot this on film or did she use digital cameras? I'm so happy that you used 35mm film. And it was just so funny because yesterday I was watching this old interview with Steven Spielberg, and he was explaining the differences between shooting on film, what you look at on film, because he says you don't really know what it's going to look like until the film is processed, compared to digital, to where you can instantly just look at it right there on set and know what you're getting. But he said something that I really had to think about, because he was right. And I heard another filmmaker tell me this. With true film, if let's say you're filming something that's a still object, using film still gives that still object a little bit of movement because of the way film moves, where digital is just shooting straight, it's shooting flat, but the film brings your short film to life.
I mean, I feel like it does. And the other thing that I think brings the whole set to life is that, because you're not being able to check for mistakes, look back at footage, you have to be so present. And it can be a chaotic thing being on set, and it can be intense and stressful, but you absolutely have to focus, because you have to just see it with your own eyes. You're not relying on seeing it again through the camera, through digital camera. And the actors are very present. You're present with the actors, the crew. No one's on their phones. They're sort of laser focused, because when the film spools through the camera, you hear this, and that is just the money being put through there. So everyone's sort of got laser focus. But I think there's a vibe on set that everyone seems like they're really in the moment, with total focus and very present.
Well, in this film, because you're shooting on film, did you have to do multiple takes in certain areas of the film?
Yeah, I mean, we always do a couple of takes, or 3 at least. You want to do a take, allow an actor to get into it. But how I work is I do lots of rehearsal beforehand, because obviously you can't just film it all, because it's film's so expensive. I mean, some people do, of course, if they have the budget, and I felt like, sorry, I lost what I was saying, but
no, because I was asking you about multiple takes.
Multiple takes. So, yeah. Because some of the camera movements, like if it's on a track or a dolly, there's a lot of moving parts. The actors have to get it right. The crew have to get it. The camera department have to get it right. And these things aren't necessarily very easy to do. But in general, I like to rehearse before and then do less takes, because I think that often, people's instinct at the beginning is correct. But yeah, I normally do at least 3 takes though, just to to also let an actor try something else out, and you want to sort of not have options, but be able to let them flex and do what they do best,
Well,
and surprise you. Really.
Yeah, how many days did it take you to film?
We shot it in 6 days.
Do you know about how many feet of film you used?
A lot. Probably maybe 8,000, maybe 6,000 feet of film.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
There's a lot of film used. We had to get some more film actually at about 4 days in, because we'd been given very kindly from Kodak this film stock, and actually I had to call my dad, and he drove from Ireland to England to get the Kodak film stock and drive it back, because you can't rely on it being sent, because it can't go through an X-ray machine. So my dad was like a superhero in the middle of this shoot. He's like, "Don't worry, I've got you." Anyway, so that was very nice. But yes, I shot a lot. I shot more film than I should have, probably.
Well, how's the editing process working with film compared to working with digital?
Well, I think that I studied at Tisch, NYU in New York, and they always taught us to almost, even if you're working on digital, behave like you're working on film. And, it means that you really plan and prep everything that you're doing. And so you know exactly what you want to shoot and almost how you want to edit it. Of course, that can change further down the line. So, but I think it means that you're much more economical with your decisions and your choices. And I think that makes for better films. You're thinking longer and harder about it, and yeah, I think that's the main thing. Because otherwise, like what we see lots of TV shows and stuff. They call it whatever, hosing down, or when there's a steady cam, just everything gets shot, and then all those decisions get made in the edit. However, I work with an amazing editor called Harry Sepka, and we did make decisions in the edit. And a few things changed, but it was pretty much how it was in the script. There was no kind of totally reworking because it's quite a simple story, really. It's sort of quite pared down.
Yeah, but that's what I find the beauty in many short films. I don't want to see an overly complicated film. Your film flowed so beautifully, and more importantly, it keeps the attention of the audience from beginning to end. And I think that has a lot to do with Briege, because her facial expressions, even without dialogue, says a lot, because her acting causes the audience, it's almost like you're stepping inside her mind. And while she's thinking, how am I going to handle this dilemma? And, I think one of the cutest scenes was inside the church when she went in there to pray and Mr. Hickey comes running up behind her. I just thought that was so funny, because he's telling her what the truth is about Clodagh, and she's wrestling with that actual truth. So I just thought that was a beautiful scene. But this whole film is just, again, it's got to be one of my favorite ones so far of the season.
Oh, I'm so happy to hear that. I mean, I feel like the scene you're talking about with Mr. Hickey is a very funny scene, because, Mrs. Kelly is in total denial. She's not in denial, but, we, the audience, have witnessed what she's going through, but she won't publicly admit it to anyone. And so, Mr. Hickey is like her conscience, and her truth teller. And he has also been moved by this experience. She's not alone in it, which makes it all the more powerful. But I know, when totally inappropriate, whilst she's praying, comes and kind of harasses her.
Yeah, and that's what I love, this balance in this film. You don't have, even if there's a little bit of a tense moment in this film, it's not so tense that it makes the audience uncomfortable. We're actually cheering the housekeeper on in this film because she's the one wrestling with a decision. We're also cheering on Clodagh, and I think in a way the audience is Mr. Hickey. We're like, yeah, we want him to push this through. And and so it just works.
Yeah. We're willing for it to happen, and also there's so much to, and I love how she's sort of, actually, it's rather wonderful what's happening, but to Mrs. Kelly, she's haunted by it. The tapping, the brushing of the shoes, it's sort of following her wherever she goes. And that, it's like a great passion, she can't get it out of her head. And I don't know whether she's a character that's experienced that in a very long time. So, or if ever, so she's deeply moved by the whole thing.
She is. And I don't want to give away, I'm not going to give away the ending to this film. I want everyone who is going to go to Tribeca and other film festivals to see this film. I don't want to give away the ending, but this film, I'm almost short of calling it perfect because it really is.
Wow, that's very generous of you.
And it was so funny, Portia, because probably within the first 4 or 5 minutes of the film, I was sitting there watching it for the first time, and I'm like, Portia makes filmmaking look easy, but it's not easy. But you made it look easy because this film is just, I could just go on and on about how great Clodagh is, and I want everybody to see it. Now, for you, how did you get connected to Serena Armitage, because she's executive producing?
So Serena and I are working on another project together, and we got connected through someone who had read a script that Mike and I wrote together, and thought that she might like it, and she did like it, and so we were working on that together. And then I said to her that we wanted to shoot something, and she thought it was a great idea to shoot something. Because the more work you make, the more experience you get, and we had a little open window to make this film. I just had not just, but it was, my son was sort of 9 months old, and it was my first film since having hit him as a baby, and I felt like I, wanted to, have another film experience, before going on to the feature, and so it was, and it was lovely. I got to work again with Jomo Frey, who was the cinematographer who I'd worked with before on a short called Radiator, and it was great getting the old band back together, and friends of mine from film school came over and crewed. It was a great experience. But Serena's been a big support, and we continue to hopefully work together.
Well, was your crew, was it all female?
It wasn't all female, but it's predominantly female. So it was a predominantly female cast and crew, which we always, try and have it at least 50-50 on our sets, but not always possible. But it was very exciting with this film to have, more women than men on set, there was, the camera department. We had Callie Riley, who's assistant camera AC, incredible. She's top of her game. We were very lucky to be able to have her. And Austin, she is Moac, and she was loading the film, and she did a super job. We didn't have any light leaks. Nothing went wrong. And lots of heads of departments were women. So it was, and it's a female-led cast, and it's a female-led film. So it was nice to see that behind the camera as well as on screen.
Well, has Serena given you any type of advice? Because I know that she won an Oscar for her short film in 2016, Stutterer, which is what she won it for. Have you received advice from her? Because, you have a film with Clodagh that, to me, has all the elements to make it all the way.
Oh, that's very kind of you to say. I mean, hopefully, so Serena has given some advice. I mean, the advice really is that you apply to the Oscar qualifying festivals, and then if you win their #1 award, you are then eligible to apply for the Oscars. So, these things are so competitive, and there are so many amazing films out there. Even at Cleveland, I watched even Winar's Shorts blog. There were such strong films, and I was really kind of proud to be among them. It's also, there are so many applications. It's all, I mean, I don't think it's random. It's not random at all, but, there's so much luck involved with, who sees it, who the film speaks to, who's watching it, all these things. So, I feel very grateful for our journey with this film, that people really are responding to it. But, I also see lots of fantastic films that don't get into film festivals, so it's all, so we'll see. But I mean, I think the Oscars are probably, a long shot, but, if we get one of these awards, we'll definitely try,
Well, I think that you have a very good chance. And because this film, and I have seen so much film and a ton of short films, this one to me falls into that category where people need to be paying attention, because this could be one that, to me, well, it's already an award-winning film, but I think it's going to be winning even more awards, and hopefully it becomes an Oscar-qualified film, because like I said, it has all the elements. And this film, it almost reminds me when An Irish Goodbye won in 2023, because I think heartfelt films can lead the way.
Well, I hope so. That would be nice. I mean, I love Irish Goodbye. Was a super film. Very talented filmmakers there with a lovely story. And I mean, we're still in the middle of our festival run, and so we'll see. Every couple of weeks or a week we get some good news, and then we're allowed to announce at some point. So it's got some sort of energy behind it, and very, very excited that people are kind of responding to it. Even though it's an Irish film. Not that means people wouldn't respond, but, globally, the fact that it's going to Tokyo and Japan, feels like there's clearly something that people respond to, and it's universal in a way, because even though it's a very specific story about a very specific person in a very specific world, that we come up against kind of moral dilemmas in our everyday life, and I feel like that speaks through.
Well, and I love, and the other thing that I really appreciated, it was that this film does not have a religious overtone. it's based on a character that you placed in that scenario. And when the audience watches this film, they're following along with the story. And to me, this is a film that's going to resonate with a very broad audience. And I think some of the best short films have come out of the UK, have come out of Ireland. And because, well, you have a great track record in those areas when it comes to short films. And not only that, I don't see, for me, I don't see a whole lot of American-made short films. So most of the ones that I see are actually coming out of the UK or other parts of the world. So I say, hey, go global.
Oh, so great. Well, thank you so much. I mean, I've seen, I think short films, it's a kind of difficult medium because there's so much one feels one has to get into such a short space of time. And, for people to feel really satisfied, there always needs to be a beginning, a middle, and an end. And doing that within a 5 to 15 page script is always challenging. But I mean, I love short films, and I think I've seen some amazing American short films as well. At film school, there were a mix of people from all over, but strong things. But I'm glad you have there's an affinity of things being sent to you from Ireland and the UK is good news. I'm glad it's reaching you.
Well, yeah, and I think actually we actually checked a few days ago. Our largest viewing audience for film comes out of London, so we're happy. So we're happy with that. Now, for you, I know that you mentioned that you were working on a feature film with Serena. Do you have any other upcoming projects for 2024?
Well, we're actually at the moment, Mike and I, my writing partner and producer, are discussing and working on developing Clodagh into a feature. Because, the characters Breed and Caitlin brought so much to Mrs. Kelly and Clodagh. We really feel there's much more to explore there. And with the trio with Mr. Hickey, I think there's a lot of mileage there, for those three to go on the road together, and learn a lot about each other, but really about themselves. And I think that trio, they can kind of bring a lot out of one another and learn from one another, and also have fun together, and make something quite funny. Really, I mean, that's the dream, and funny, and sincere.
Well, yeah, I was going to ask you if you were thinking about creating Clodagh as a feature film, because I think there's and you know this already, there is a much larger backstory with Mrs. Kelly.
Exactly, and all those things can be explored. And I think those characters deserve the time to kind of run wild together, and all of our scripts are always very much character driven scripts, and the idea is to get the audience in the character's shoes and to feel that way. And I look forward to exploring it. I mean, I think it's an Ireland, it's so beautiful. There's so much talent there, and we love working in Ireland. I'm half Irish, my dad's Irish, and any excuse to continue making films there, we'll do it.
I love Ireland. When I went to Ireland, I literally stayed away from Dublin because I had people tell me, no, you need to go to Central. You need to go through the countryside and see the real people. And I did. We went to Limerick, Cashel. Yeah. I'm trying to think of where the other places we went to, but I just love Ireland.
Well, it's amazing, whoever you bump into, or on when you're in Ireland, that have this very kind of poetic way of speaking in turn of phrase. It all feels very, yeah, I guess just poetic, and the way that they speak, the language they use, and yeah, the Irish.
And you have, and see, I was actually talking to a filmmaker. I believe it was late last year, and because he had a film that they had done in Ireland, and one of the questions I asked him was, how did you work out the dialects? Because in Ireland, a lot of people don't realize that there are multiple Irish dialects. When I was there, somebody was telling me, oh yeah, so-and-so's from this region. Oh, they are from over at this other place. And I'm like, how do you know that? Because from my ears, it almost sounds the same, but it's not. And so they could tell just by listening to the Irish dialect what region of the country they were from. I was amazed.
I mean, to be honest, I would also be, you know, I've spent half my life in Ireland, and I still struggle to, you know, sometimes figure out exactly where people are from. I mean, Cork, where we filmed and Waterford, that, you know, Cork has a very sort of specific accent. So does Dublin, but you know, it takes a minute sort of to get your ear in, and but you know, I've grown up with sort of surrounded by Irish people my whole life, but I do find it amazing how different the accent sounds across the country.
Well, I can't wait to see where Clodagh goes this year, and I can't wait to see what else you bring forth. And if you do Clodagh as a feature film, I literally cannot wait to see it. And ladies and gentlemen, Clodagh, one of the best, heartwarming, heartfelt short films you're going to see this year. And Portia, because you're going to be appearing at the Tribeca Film Festival, for the general public, is Clodagh going to be available later in the year for anyone to be able to view it?
Yeah, I hope so. It will definitely be available. So how it works is we'll finish our festival run, and then hopefully it will be on a streaming, you know, a streaming platform that we all can have access to. So I look forward to, you know, getting it out there and having lots of people see it. Will be a nice.
Oh, and it will be. And again, ladies and gentlemen, get ready. Clodagh, directed by Portia A. Buckley. Again, probably one of my favorite films so far this year. And you know, I love short films, and I'm placing this one literally near at the top because this is a film that everyone will fall in love with. And if you're like me, yeah, you're going to be begging Portia to create the feature film because we want to see more films like this one. So, ladies and gentlemen, hey, you can catch all of the replays of our interviews with the top film directors, producers, screenwriters, and actors, and more on Bond on Cinema. We're also available on YouTube as well, and a dozen audio platforms like iTunes and Spotify. And Portia, I want to thank you so much for coming on and sharing your film with us today.
Oh, Dr. Ward, thank you so much for having me. It was lovely to meet you, and hopefully we'll get a chance to speak again in the future about films, more films.
I'm sure that we will, and I'm expecting Clodagh to rack up many more awards, and who knows, if you end up on the Oscar list, we're going to be doing this again.
Oh, well, so lovely to meet you, and thank you for watching it and for loving it and supporting it.
Oh, we're going to be shouting it from the rooftops, Portia. I can guarantee you that. And ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you for watching and listening. And as for me, I'm either going to see you at the movies or from the red carpet.